You're listening to I Communicate with your host, Mark Altman, on Full Service Radio, AM 830 WCRN. Once again, here's Mark.
Welcome back to I Communicate, Finding Your Voice. I'm your host, Mark Altman, here with Dale Scott. And Dale, I want to get right into this second segment. I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite topics. I work with companies and individuals, emotional intelligence. And boy, do umpires need to have emotional intelligence. And I want to start with something that I think a lot of fans wonder about all the time. And that is when you're behind home plate and a player shows you up, whether it be body language, primarily body language, or whether they have some choice words for you or whatever. I mean, you're human. So you can say that doesn't impact how you feel about them. Doesn't it get under your skin in terms of, don't you think psychologically it impacts when you're going to give a player the benefit of the doubt with a ball or a strike? So just talk about what that's like in those situations.
Well, yes, we are human. That's obviously something you can't change. But as an umpire, there's a couple things. First of all, we look at players. First of all, every game is different, or every game is new, I should say. If you have the night before you have an ejection with a manager or a player, the next game it's a clean slate. You're starting new again. But as umpires, there are certain players and certain managers that seem to be verbalize and question much more often and frequently than others. There are certain players, managers that get ejected more than others. It's just their personality or how they approach things or whatever. So as an umpire, I relate it to kind of like a law enforcement officer, for example, is that you have a suspect that has a long rap sheet, so you know that this guy has done these things before. So you take that into consideration versus a player that doesn't get ejected very often, doesn't get in arguments very often, and now maybe he is questioning a pitch or a play or whatever. You may give that player that doesn't argue that much a little more leeway because it's not his norm. It's not what he normally does. Where a guy with what I would call a rap sheet, you may cut him off a little bit quicker because he does this all the time, and the outcome. He's not going to agree with you, and he's going to verbalize that, and he's going to let you know about it, and you may cut off that argument a little bit quicker. That being said, automatics are automatics no matter who does it. If they say the choice words, if they can say that pitch was blankety blankety blank, and okay, you don't like the pitch and whatever. But if they say that pitch was outside your blankety blankety blank,
yep.
He has now just personalized it to me, and he will be ejected.
Okay.
And they know that. I mean, they know what they can say and not say. And then sometimes you just have a guy that he doesn't personalize it, but he just continues on to the point where, okay, obviously, something's got to happen.
Right.
We got to move on. So and you have that.
So Dale, we have a caller for you. Steve has a question for you, if it's okay.
Sure.
Hey, how's it going? I was just wondering what your most memorable game you ever umpired was.
Wow, I worked about 103 games short of 4,000, so I had quite a few. But the highlight ones for me is obviously my first major league game ever, my first game behind the plate ever, my first playoff game, my first World Series, my first All-Star game. All those firsts are ones that are that are special. Be honest, I mean that first World Series I had in 1998 when the Yankees swept San Diego. I remember Game 1 was in Yankee Stadium, and I was at first base, I was at second base, and Tim Cheetah was in the left field line. Tim and I went to umpire school the same year. We worked together in the minor leagues, and this is our first World Series. And I remember before the first pitch when they were warming up, and we were standing out there, and Tim and I we looked around, and I said, we used to work in the California League and the Dominican Republic, and we looked around and said, Tim, we've come a long way, dude. We're about ready to start the World Series here in Yankee Stadium, and this is insane. It was a real moment for us because it's such an accomplishment, and it's one that you always hoped and dreamed if you got into professional baseball, you'd make it to the World Series. You chose to work the World Series, and here it was coming to fruition. So that was a huge deal.
So, Dale, one of the questions I want to ask you is about the concept of a makeup call. So before the instant replay system went into effect, if you were to see an instant replay at a game and you could see, and the fans, you hear the fans see the replay and the big groan comes out from the crowd, and you missed a call, or even if it wasn't the fans, you kind of missed a ball strike call. Explain, how do you look at the makeup call? I mean, is that a legit thing where umpires, you're keeping in the back of your mind, you might have screwed one up and you're going to make it up? I mean, what's the mindset around a makeup call?
Well, first of all, umpire, your mindset as an official is not, man, I missed that pitch. Well, I'm going to make sure I give him one next time. That's just not how it works. Here's why. Because if I legitimately miss a pitch, it doesn't help things to compound it by missing another one in his favor. I mean, because now, at first you got the pitcher mad at you because you called what should have been a strike a ball. Well, now I call what should have been a ball a strike, and now I got the hitter pissed off. So now I've got both teams screaming at me, and your credibility is going right down in the gutter. You hate to miss calls, obviously. You hate to miss pitches. You hate to miss plays. But you don't go with the concept of, well, gosh, I called that guy out. You know what? Next one I'm going to call him safe. Or the next close one I'm going to call him safe. This just isn't in your mindset. That's not how you operate. Now, there are times, and you see this, in other sports also, a foul here or whatever, that it happens, you have a close play that maybe is questionable, and 3 pitches later you have another close play that goes the other way, and they go, oh, well, that's obvious a makeup call. Well, no,
yeah, exactly.
It's really not, and it's just, that's not our concept. And you're saying about you hear the fans moan. I remember distinctly early in my career, I was in the Kingdome. I had a steal play at third base that went against Seattle. I called whoever it was out. There was that delay, and then you hear all, as they see it in the monitors up in the stands, and then there was just this boo, and I'm thinking, and I thought I had the play right, and I hear that, and I'm going, oh, man, obviously I must have missed it. Well, after the game's over, I went in to look at it. You couldn't tell. The angle they had, you couldn't tell at all. You have to understand, fans look at plays with their heart and not with their head, and that's fine. That's what fans are supposed to do. But we don't look at it that way. We look at it, black and white. Can I see the tag? Was the tag before the runner, before the base, or did he miss the tag? Or if it's an angle that you can't tell, then guess what? You can't tell. You can't just guess and make it up. But fans will do that if they can't tell. That went our way. Well, we don't know if it went your way because you can't tell. But so I learned real early in my career, just because a reaction may be negative doesn't necessarily mean that you were wrong. A lot of times maybe it did, but what I'm saying is it doesn't necessarily mean that you were wrong. They're gonna see the play the way they want to see it.
Yeah, and Dale, one of the things I think in from a communication perspective, I'm a freelance sports writer for Associated Press, and I remember the first times I used to go into baseball locker rooms and see the players after the games, and I think it'd be very surprising to fans how much these guys take wins and losses to heart. And one question I'd have for you is, when there is a situation, whenever someone's disappointed or their expectations aren't met or there's something to blame, everybody always looks for a scapegoat, and very often the umpires are the scapegoat. Sure. What's it like in an umpire's locker room after a game if an umpire does believe they made a mistake? And would fans be surprised at how much umpires take it to heart? What is that like?
Well, I think fans would be shocked how we take these things, because one of the criticism, or one of the things I hear from fans, he missed it, but what does he care? He doesn't win or lose. He just goes home after the game. He doesn't care. Trust me, we care. We're our worst, our own worst critics, quite frankly. Again, things are different with replay, but you still have pitches or things that aren't reviewable. But the point is that if you miss a play, after the game, you go and you look at it in the locker room, and first, an official has to be honest with himself. Okay, I have worked with a few officials that they'll look at a play, and to me, it's pretty obvious. He missed the play. The tag was made or whatever. And the calling official will look at it and go, oh, yeah, you can't tell, or, this, and it's like, you're not really looking at this honestly, we make mistakes. It happens. And what I try to do, and what I tell guys, that I talk to, groups I talk to, and umpire official camps and whatever, is that don't dwell on the mistake. Take the mistake, look at it, dissect it, point by point, why that mistake was made. Was my
Dale,
angle bad?
Dale, hold that thought. We'll continue this right after the break. Thanks.